Hey, welcome back to the We See You podcast. Brandon, it's been a while. I'm excited to be back with you.
It has. I am too excited. So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I was thinking since you and I are both transplants, I'm in a heavy season of buyers who are transplanting, and we are in a super fast growing city. I thought it would be fun to talk about relocating and what home means and all of the things about being new to a place.
Right. Yeah. That sounds great. I came down like anybody knows. So I was originally born in Southeast Missouri. Shout out Ontario. But the population in the nearest town was a little over 4,000. So it was quite the shock coming here. You were also from the Midwest, yes?
I'm originally from upstate New York, and then my parents worked at Griffith Air Force Base. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's where Woodstock 99 was held, not because anyone knows where Rome is. But if you do, I'm your person. So that Air Force Base closed down, and my parents were stationed at Eglin Air Force Base, which is in the Panhandle of Florida. Okay. So did most of my growing up there from 8 to 18. Then I went to Florida State. Go Noles. And I lived in Tallahassee for 5 years. And then I moved down here on a whim, randomly, and been here ever since. So what brought you down here?
I had completed my bachelor's degree to become a teacher. And I picked teaching because it was one of the few things that you could do as a career in Southeast Missouri without having to travel an hour to St. Louis to have some sort of manufacturing job or whatever, or a better paying job. So the college in our hometown, it was like a satellite campus.
Okay.
So they offered either a math secondary education. There was a lot of elementary schools in there as well, a lot of elementary school teachers. But when I went into years 3 and 4, I went to junior college. So years 3 and 4 had to decide on a university. The one that was on the same campus decided to start offering the secondary math education, or I would have had to travel somewhere else to go get a science degree. I wanted one of those two things because of loan forgiveness, which is also a hot topic now.
We won't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but we do support whatever your decision is about that, I guess.
Yeah, so that was, I don't want to say that it was driven by money, but really, if you're going to college, you have to pay for it somehow. So yep. I wanted something that I could get my loan forgiven after 5 years of whatever, working in a low-income school district. So I completed that. There weren't many jobs available because we were producing teachers, but the towns weren't growing, and the people that were already teaching liked their job and stayed until retirement, and not a lot of people retire every year. So we were producing more teachers than were retiring. So I thought, well, if I have to move anyway, where would I want to go? I had a friend who was teaching in South Korea for a similar reason. I didn't want to leave the country. So she had been interested in coming back to the Southwest, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, stuff like that, because, why not?
Right.
So I looked at some of those, applied at some schools in Texas. I thought, if I have to move, where would I want to go? I'd never heard anything bad about Florida until you get here, right? But I did extensive research. So I assumed that being on either coast would be too expensive, especially on a teacher salary. Plus the threat of hurricanes, whatever. I'd never been through a hurricane. Lots of tornadoes, no hurricanes. And then I wanted to see what school would fit my desired demographics, and what I still wanted a small town feel. And so I just started picking around the different counties and settled on Lake County.
Nice. So where was your first teaching job in Lake County?
Southlake High School in Groveland.
Yeah, that's where my husband's at.
Yep. And the assistant principal who interviewed me on the phone told me that I would probably want to live in Claremont versus Groveland at the time because I was 24. And she said, Groveland's great. However, if you're wanting stuff to do and you're wanting to go out, there's nothing in Groveland for you. You'd want to be closer to Orlando. Claremont has some stuff that you would like to go to. So I got an apartment in Claremont during the 3 days I was doing my interview. I was here for 3 days to knock out the interview, and then I also had to do my fingerprints and find a place to live.
Yep.
Yeah.
Done that.
Yeah. What was the turnaround time from when you applied to when you moved?
So mine was a little bit different. I applied at the end of one school year. So I taught at Childs High School up in Tallahassee, and I was driving down every week. I had some mutual friends down here. So that's what my story is. I had my internship year of teaching plus a full year of classroom teaching. So had the degree, had the experience, and there were a ton of job openings in teaching at the time. Right. So I was driving down every weekend to go to Orlando. I would go to concerts, enjoyed the nightlife. It was just, Tallahassee is one of those places that's wonderful. I'm not bashing my Knowles, don't worry. But it's very much college kids or 40 and older. There's right. Not a whole lot of in between. I was done with like the college vibe and the feel. Yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. I came down here and I interviewed at the end of one school year for the following school year.
Right.
But I also had a job lined up in D.C., Washington, D.C. for the summer. So I got the job down here. It was one of the funniest stories I think that I have in my life, which is saying a lot because y'all will probably learn on the podcast. Weird things happen to Kate. Brandon can attest to that.
Witness.
So I interviewed at a middle school, and at the time they were in transition, and I showed up for my interview, and the FFA kids did not lock the chickens up, and the chickens were running around the campus, and they asked me how my chicken catching skills were. Fun fact, I don't do birds. I said, well, how are your contract writing skills? And I ended up getting the job. I did say at the beginning of my career I would never teach middle school, and you know what they say about saying never.
Right.
So I ended up accepting the job. I was interviewed, offered the job on the spot. I accepted it, did the same thing, went and got my fingerprints, my background check, went and put a deposit down on an apartment, but they weren't finished being built yet.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was, I don't know if I can say it. I better not say it just to be safe, but it was over by Walmart.
Yep, same.
Yep. So put my deposit down. They held it for me while I went and did my summer job up in Washington, D.C., and then I moved back down and into a brand new shiny apartment.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. So
how long have you been here?
2010 is when I moved down.
Brandon, we could have been buddies back then, man.
Yeah.
That's when I moved.
You were at the middle school.
Yes.
If you had gone straight to the high school.
I was feeding you your students, though, because my middle school that I was at was the feeder to your high school.
Yes.
That's also where I met my husband. He has a very similar story to Brandon. He was up in Ohio, and it's the same thing. You have to have so many credits of your master's degree. Once you're in a good school, people live and die in that school, mm-hmm. So you have to wait for somebody to retire to get a job.
And then they don't even retire on the correct timeline.
Yes. They retire in
like, well, maybe I'll stick around for another year.
Or they'll retire in like February. Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we've both been down here for the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. Do you call Claremont home?
Yes.
Yes.
It did not take long.
Okay.
It was a spur of the moment thing. I applied to schools in Florida July 1st. I moved in August 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So yours is fast.
I didn't have time to second guess it.
Right.
Like I couldn't have backed out if I wanted to, which is what I needed at the time. So it was a blessing and has you know that I'm very analytical. So everything usually has a plan, and I think about the plan and wait for it to be perfect before trying to execute. At the time, I just needed a fresh start, so I applied. They offered me a job. I needed a job, moved down, figured it out on the fly.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. So do you have, other than, are we allowed to say people's names? I don't know podcast rules.
I mean, we can.
Okay. So other than Trina and your girls,
Right.
do you have family down here?
I do now.
Okay.
So my mom and dad moved down a little over a year ago. So I am my mom's only child. So that was extremely rough for her. And so she started collecting dogs whenever I left. So
Better dogs than cats.
yes. Yeah. She did have a cat, which was very strange. But so when I moved down, within a few months, her dog passed away. So then within a couple months after that, she needed to fill that void. So then she got 2 dogs, a brother and a sister. And so then every time there was some sort of tragedy and she needed to fill that void, there would be another dog. Or the bleeding heart that she is, if a dog got dropped off near her house because they lived out in the country, and unfortunately that's what people in Southeast Missouri do. They just take a dog they don't want anymore out to the country, drop it off, figure they'll figure it out for themselves. Yeah, it is.
Missouri, do better.
Yeah, right? We can. That could be a whole episode all by itself. Do better, Missouri. So
We love you, Missouri. We're kind of kidding. But seriously, stop dropping your dogs off in the middle of fields. That's very sad.
yeah, it's rough. Whoops. Yeah. Oh, I can put in that cymbal sound too. But we forgot what I was saying.
Mom collected dogs.
Yes.
Mom moved down here.
Yes. So my mom and dad moved down about a year and a half ago, but they had purchased an investment property while prices were still reasonable in the area. Thank goodness. And so someone else paid their mortgage for 5 or 6 years, and then when my mom was ready to retire, able to retire, they had a place to go here. They would come down and visit 2 or 3 times a year, or I would go up there when I could. Once I started a family down here, that became much tougher.
Right.
To travel with kids and to afford to travel with kids on a teacher salary. So they made the effort, and they were coming down here more. So now a lot of us are here. I still have some family back in Missouri, but at least my parents are here.
So I don't know what this says about the difference between you and me, but my parents are the opposite and moved further away.
But they had you for longer. So I moved away when I was 24, right out of college. And again, unexpected.
They didn't have me longer. I left home when I was 18.
Oh,
And I never
okay.
went back.
Gotcha.
I love my family. That is not a testament to anything that was wrong at home. I'm just a workaholic, and I was fiercely independent since birth. So it made sense for me to move out, do the college thing, and I was ready for adulthood.
Right.
But my husband and I have no family here. So his family is still all in Ohio. My sister's in the panhandle of Florida still, where we grew up. And my parents just moved to Tennessee. They're building their dream home. Shout out, Mom and Dad. So genuinely, to call this place home, it took us a lot longer. Yeah. Like, we would always say, we're going home for the holidays, or gotcha. I'm going home to visit my parents. It wasn't until very recently that this feels like home. And I think a huge testament to that is the tribe that we've built here. It's still a very busy area, and it's growing daily, but it still has a small town feel enough where you do see the same faces over and over again. You have the ability to run into friends, tribe members, former clients at a restaurant and catch up with them and feel connected with them. And I think one of the unique things about Lake County growing up, if you would have told me it was an hour drive to anywhere, I'd be like, nope, too far, not interested. Here, I feel like everything is 30 minutes to an hour away, and it feels like a normal drive.
Right.
So genuinely, our tribe is so tight here, but I think the closest drive we have whenever we hang out with friends or people that we're close with, I think the closest drive we have is 30 minutes from our house. So it's changed our perspective and how we view the world, how we see the world, and really the chosen family versus your birth family, right. Which I think is cool. And you're part of that, you and Trina.
Yeah. So in Missouri, we were 10 or 15 minutes from Walmart and some of the local restaurants. But other than that, the nearest Target was at least 45 minutes away.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a movie theater in 2 towns over. So that took 20 minutes to get there. Or if you went the other way towards St. Louis, that's where you could go to the malls or Target or whatever, some of the larger chain restaurants. And it took at least 45 minutes, probably a solid hour to get pretty much anywhere you wanted to go.
Right.
So moving here, I was like, oh my gosh, we're so close to everything. There are big stores, and there's a mall here, and there's a mall in the next town, and we can go to iDrive that has literally anything you could think of.
Right. All right, let's have some fun. So the statistic now is, I think it's every 8 seconds somebody's moving to Florida.
Okay.
My transplant clients are my absolute favorite because they make me giggle so hard for what is normal here that they either freak out about or they're looking at me like I have 15 heads. So let's talk and dispel or confirm some super popular Florida fact and fiction.
Okay.
Okay. Number 1, yes, we have lizards everywhere. They're excessive. It's like the lizard apocalypse down here.
Yes.
They don't bite unless you want them to. You can wear them like earrings. Like you can open their little jaw and they'll clamp. They are good though. They're good. Don't kill the lizards. They eat the mosquitoes, the love bugs, the flies, and everything you don't want in your house. So
everything else that the cold would usually get rid of, there's no cold, so it doesn't kill all those bugs.
Yes. Also, they are very food driven. So if you have a ton of lizards in your house, you should probably call an exterminator. If you have a ton of lizards outside of your house, you probably don't need to because they're handling it.
Good. Second is, are there alligators in the water behind the house? Yes. Go ahead and assume yes, and then if there's not, be pleasantly surprised. Pretty much any body of water that we have here in Lake County is going to, or has had, or will have, an alligator or multiple alligators.
And also, super cute. They really seriously are. So these are not crocodiles. They are not going to come and eat your leg when you're walking by on the trail.
Unless you feed them
yes.
and they get accustomed to being fed.
Absolutely.
Please don't do that.
Yes. Don't feed the alligators. Don't be waiting in... What?
The sign. Have you seen the sign?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, yes, we do have signs around that say, do not feed or molest the alligators.
Mm-hmm. They're everywhere. And we do mean it. Please don't, because that is what makes them aggressive. Now, obviously, we have all the pictures that you see online. They're usually real. They are usually not Photoshop. They're big. They walk around on golf courses. Mm-hmm. The little dudes don't do anything. You have to be talking about a monster freaking alligator for it to be a threat to a grown human. Your tiny ones, obviously, don't let them be wading in the water by themselves anyways.
Right.
Just parenting 101. But yeah, we have alligators everywhere. They don't typically have anything to do with you. If you do live on the water, you probably shouldn't have tiny dogs out and unattended, and you probably shouldn't have outside house cats because those are delicious meals for them. We also have snakes everywhere. That's true. Honestly, though, I think I've only ever seen with my own 2 eyes 2 poisonous snakes, both in
coral?
Both coral. And that's in the Panhandle of Florida and down here. Oh, I lied. I saw 3 because I did see a rattlesnake one time, but that was out on a trail. That wasn't residential. We do have black racers. Those are really, really good. We have rat snakes, corn snakes. We got a whole bunch of snakes. Mm-hmm. It just is.
So there's a local golf course that you used to work at.
Yep.
That while I was in the high school realm of things and helping with coaching golf, whatever, we were having a golf match, and I saw what looked like a lab walking out from a marshy area, a wooded marshy area on a golf course.
I already know where this story's going.
But it was walking like a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what in the world? And then it took me a while to figure out that it was a bobcat.
Yep.
Walking up.
All right, so
up
you
the
know
fairway into the residential area between houses, like it did it every day.
Yep.
It was not surprised at all that we were there.
So you know where I live. I don't think I'm going to put that on the podcast because that's a little like Stalker 101.
Right.
But
Are you talking neighborhood or town?
Neighborhood.
Okay.
My neighborhood is very well known. We have a very healthy bear population.
Whole town does.
So cute. I'm a huge animal lover. Y'all are probably watching this like, okay, never moving to Florida. Seriously though, we do have bears. We have a mama who has 3 cubs. I don't know if the cubs are still with her. They were this time last year, and they would just follow her around. They love bird food. So that was like their favorite. Everybody in my neighborhood would post their security camera videos of the bears taking down the food and eating it like popcorn. My husband's a avid runner now, and he sees them. He runs before he goes to work in the morning. So he's leaving the house at like 4 a.m. and he sees them sitting and going through people's trash on trash day, like just posted up, picking out what they want to eat.
Like bananas, I don't like apples.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, everything that you have heard about, it's basically the Australia of the United States. We have all of the animals. Mm-hmm. We're still here to tell you about it. Okay, what other common myths about Florida can we confirm or... I'll just give you a fun fact. Lake County. Reason why it is growing up so quickly... Well, one of many reasons. 1, it's right on the outskirts of Orlando. 2, once upon a time, this entire county used to be nothing but orange groves. Mm-hmm. As far as you could see, we are famous for the Citrus Tower. Look it up if you don't know what that is. That's where we are. That's where we're located. So in the 80s, there was a hard freeze followed by disease, I think, and it took out the majority of the orange groves. So that's when we started growing up, and they were clearing the orange groves and building some houses. So if you decide that Lake County is where you want to be, don't be surprised if you have to get some soil tests if you're still out in like the rural areas to make sure that you don't have fertilizer and all the chemicals and all of that left behind in your soil.
Right. Also, it's Lake County because it's a majority of lakes.
Yes.
So that was another thing that I was surprised by. The surfing and wakeboarding population here. Mm. So many professional surfers and wakeboarders and skiers are here because they can practice year round. And it's beautiful, and they can live on the lake for a reasonable amount.
Yes. Also, that reminded me, we're the city of champions because we have a ton of Olympians that train here. Mm-hmm. So triathletes, cycling is huge here. Half the local population just rolled their eyes, and the other half went, yay!
Right.
That's like an ongoing battle.
Very divisive topic.
Yes. What else? Runners come here. Again, year-round training. It doesn't ever get too cold to train. We don't have snow.
And we have the walking, biking, running trails.
Yep. And we have hills. No place else in Florida has hills. So it's great for training. Like, for real hills, y'all. I'm not talking like, meh.
Right.
We got hills.
Yes. So it is not Kansas around here. No. Oh, the soil, if you can call it that.
Oh.
It's
We
sand.
Can't call it that. It's sand.
Right. Yeah.
You know that whole saying, don't build your house on sand foundation? We disprove it.
We do that. But we don't have rocks in the ground. Mm-hmm. So Missouri is very rich soil, but also filled with rocks and boulders. So if you try to dig, you don't know what you're going to find.
Ah.
Yeah. So here, if I'm changing a sprinkler head, I'm just moving sand like I'm at the beach.
Yep.
And then unscrew it, screw the new one in, let it fill back in. So that was quite an eye-opener.
Yes. Okay. We're called the Sunshine State for a reason. Everything that you own, if you leave it outside, will be faded, dried out, cracked, destroyed. Architectural shingles that are supposed to last 30 years, you're lucky if you get 20 out of them. Mm-hmm. Insurance is a nightmare. That is factual. Mm-hmm. Your car, oh my God. If you don't have tinted windows, you need to get them tinted before you come to Florida. It is a sauna. If you have the old school cars with the really hot material, I don't even know what that, leather, plastic, I don't know, the steering wheel, if you don't have tinted windows and you go to get in the car, you will burn your flipping hands off. So,
and the seatbelt buckle.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Especially on children's seats. Like, you got to be really careful so you don't scald or burn your kids.
Absolutely. Don't walk around barefoot. That will also burn your feet off in the middle of summer.
Mm-hmm. We are within 2 hours from either beach. That played a big part of the choice. Like, yes, I'm not on a beach, so I thought it would be more manageable as far as finances go. Mm-hmm. Less insurance risk, whatnot. But it's a quick drive to either side. So if you like waves and cold water, you can go to the East Coast. If you're like me and you prefer it calm and warm, you can go to the Gulf side. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite side. It's, in my opinion, prettier and more relaxing. Yeah. But some people want the waves. And I don't know if it's because they want to watch the waves or if they want to have to bounce in the ocean all the time. I'm like, that's work.
So full disclosure, ocean kind of freaks me out and I don't like sand. So I'm not a huge beach person at all. I prefer the springs. We have a ton of natural springs and canals and rivers. You can take your paddle boards or your kayaks and canoes and literally be right next to manatees. Mm-hmm. And that's less than an hour drive from here. So that's my favorite, just because the beach freaks me out. Y'all have no idea how close those sharks are. I went on a helicopter tour over the ocean. I've also gone skydiving. And when you see like all the little dots that are people and how close those sharks are, I'm like, y'all are crazy. You are nuts.
This past weekend, if you can see my sunburn / peeling face, this past weekend we went to the beach for a day, and it was the first time that we found sand dollars in the sand. I didn't know.
Whole?
Yeah.
What?
Like living in the water. Matt and Shelby taught us how to do it. And we just found it's like
that's
kind of
fun.
like scalloping, but you're just searching around for them with your feet, and then you can pull them up. And I'd never even thought of doing it, but then it was.
I have never found one, and we moved down here when I was 8 to Florida, and I grew up Gulf side, so you'll have to teach me. Yeah. I'm so intrigued by this.
It was a lot easier, so I pulled up a dozen, because what else am I going to do out there other than just sift around with my feet and then found one, pick it up and set them of all different sizes, and I think we left most of them because they're living creatures, but
right.
That was a new experience for me. We also go scalloping. That's a fun end of summertime activity.
Yep. You can also, we do have sea turtles that come and nest on our beaches. Do not mess with them. Don't get in their way. No lights. Like, you can really mess up their breeding. And there's always signs. So pleading ignorance isn't going to get you anywhere because it's very well marked where the sea turtle nests are. But it's a very magical experience to just go and sit quietly, no lights, and watch that magic happen. There's also a lot of like rescues you can volunteer with if that's something that intrigues you.
What are some of your Florida bucket list items?
Oh, I've done most of them.
Have you?
I have. Yes. So I did go skydiving over Kennedy Space Station. That was a lot of fun.
I don't want the skydiving part, but I do want to go to the Space Center.
Okay. I I do want to go back and visit St. Augustine. Last time I did St. Augustine, I was in high school and I didn't really appreciate it. Wasn't in the right mind space to get out of it what I could. So I'd like to go back there. I would also like to do the Keys again, because when I went to the Keys, I was doing Marine Labs science field trip with a bunch of middle schoolers, and it was a very awesome experience. If you have the ability to send your kid, highly recommend it. But I would love to go back as an adult. Maybe have a beverage or two.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
Let's see. So I do want to go to St. Augustine. That's okay. I do want to go to Kennedy Space Center, so see all the NASA stuff. There was a part in my child life where that was a huge focus. And then here we are, an hour and a half from that, and I've been here 12 years and I still haven't gone. And I don't know why. It's just another one of those things that, bucket list, right? You want to go. Eventually you'll get there, but just haven't. I do want to go to the Keys. I've been to Miami, but only to go on a cruise.
Okay.
So I don't think it counts. And I'm not really sure if that's something I want.
So similarly, I didn't know if this would count as a Florida bucket list or just like I'm a nerdy tennis fan bucket list. I so want to go to the Miami Open.
Okay.
I'm praying that Rafa Nadal can get back there and has one more year in him. I'm not super confident, but mark my words, y'all can hold me accountable. If Rafa Nadal plays in Miami again, I will be there and watch him live before he retires.
Similarly, spring training baseball games.
Oh, yes.
So I had heard of it, right? And some people travel down here specifically for that. I didn't realize how close you were to the players and how small the venues were.
Yep.
In baseball, in St. Louis, baseball is a huge thing. It's one of the few things we're proud of. So
he really loves Missouri.
It's more of a nostalgia thing at this point. Like, I keep up with certain radio stations or radio shows from there and people from there and whatnot. But actually being there, I have no desire, because I like this has been my home.
Because this is home.
Yeah, this has been my home from 6 months after I moved down. The weather up there drove me crazy, just because I would be stuck at the house if it snowed or if it rained. It feels like it rained from mid-November through March. Or if it wasn't rain, it was snow, and it's just dark and depressing. We don't get that here. We do get rain pretty much every day in the summer, 3 to 5 o'clock. But then sun comes out again.
Yep.
But spring training games, I did go to one, but I would like to go to more, just because it's almost like a high school baseball game.
Yeah.
It's such a small field, and you get to sit close to the field no matter where you are and see the professionals, and they'll run around the warning track while play is happening. It's almost like practice. So that was a mind-blowing thing for me.
Have you seen the Blue Angels?
I have not.
Okay, you should add that to your bucket list. That's really cool. That's up in Pensacola.
Okay.
Okay, so unique things. Florida is, it could honestly be 4 separate states, in my opinion. Depending on where you are traveling in Florida, it's a completely different feel, vibe, what's nature, like scenery. Where I grew up in the Panhandle of Florida, it was much more like Alabama. Right. Like very country, but then you also had a 5-minute drive to, biased, but the most beautiful beaches in the world. I grew up on the Emerald Coast. So crystal, it's literally emerald. Okay. Like the color green, it is some of the most beautiful beaches. Sugar, white sand.
Is that Destin, Panama City, all that?
Yep.
Okay.
So shout out to my Shalimar people, because most people who move away from there say, I'm from Destin. No, you're not. I know better. No, you're not. Right. Very few people actually live in Destin. Destin's very touristy. Gotcha. Most of us are from Fort Walton Beach or Navarre or Shalimar or Pensacola or Crestview. I'm hitting all of them. But it's so funny because the north end of Okaloosa County, straight like country. pine trees, like bears, all of it. And then the further south you go, then you're right on the ocean, and it's no more than an hour drive from north to south. So that skinny little strip at the top.
I've heard the farther north you go, the more southern it gets.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
Right. I'm like, I see what you're saying.
Yes,
okay.
100% accurate. We jokingly called ourselves Floribamians. So, okay, I think we about covered it. This is our very long commercial for why you should move to Florida and why Florida is now home for both of us.
Yeah. Do we know anybody that has regretted moving to Florida?
My father. Hence why he moved back to Tennessee. Okay. But this is why. He didn't regret moving to Florida. It opened up a lot of opportunities. My sister and I we were both, well, I guess my parents both put us in the Florida prepaid program. So we were very blessed that neither one of us, through scholarships and Florida prepaid, we didn't ever have to take out student loans. So bless yes. But no, he hated the heat. So it's kind of the opposite of what most Northerners say about the snow.
Right.
He was opposite. He felt depressed and caged inside and miserable all summer long because it was just overwhelmingly hot. And full disclosure, he owned his own landscaping company, and he worked on the flight line at Eglin Air Force Base. So you have two jobs where you are just roasting in the heat all day long. So he moved back to colder climates to escape the heat. But I think that's really the only person I know that has regretted it.
So Trina is from here, and so she would like to go other places. You know, she knows that I moved here. I met her here, but she wants to experience something different, which would be great. But the people that are born here don't realize how good they have it. Like, I can't believe the house prices are so high now. We've been here forever. We can't even afford to live here anymore. Like, I just want to go to insert Midwest state here because look what you can get for the same $300,000. Like, yeah, but you're also there. Like, there's a reason the values here are high because it is such a desirable place, in my opinion, to live, right? Like, I've been in the Midwest. It has its perks, but those perks aren't year round.
Right.
We can be on vacation year round. That is another misconception, is that it's so expensive to live here. Well, yeah, if you are going to Disney 4 times a week, or if you're staying at Disney for 2 weeks, you are spending a lot of money. But if you learn to live in your town and not make a beach trip every weekend, or not go to the Space Center, or not go to Disney or spring training game. Or
honestly, we know all the tips and tricks of how to get the best bang for your buck. We know when the off seasons are for wherever you want to go. And that's when all the locals go. So anybody who's complaining about blackout dates, they're probably really green to Florida, because in my opinion, true Floridians, the days that are blocked out are not the days that we want to be there anyways, because it's packed and it's miserable.
My first Christmas here, so I've been here 5 months. My parents were down for Christmas, and it doesn't feel like Christmas here most of the time because it's so warm. And so we thought, let's do something. It's Christmas Day. Everything should be pretty quiet. We went to Universal.
Wrong.
Yeah, it was shoulder to shoulder people. It was miserable. But I realized that it makes sense in hindsight that everybody's here on vacation during Christmas break. They're not here to celebrate Christmas while they're here. They're here to do all the touristy things.
Yep.
So.
And they do Christmas experiences versus Christmas gifts.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, if they say that home is where the heart is, this is definitely home. And I'm excited and glad to call it home. If you would like to call it home, you guys know who to call. Next week on the podcast, we have a total boss babe. I'm so excited to be with her. She's a local business owner, philanthropist, entrepreneur, one of my biggest mentors and role models, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So make sure that you tune in then. Brandon, I'm sure that you'll be back very soon.
Of course.
Of course. And thank you for joining us for another episode of We See You.